This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of April, 2022. Coming up in today's show, we will hear from the folks at USDA about some of the new programs they've got that will include some partnerships between the USDA and rural communities. We'll also talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig about spring planting season that's coming up any day now here in the state of Iowa. So stay tuned, as we'll also have your ag weather outlook. But first, let's take a look at the markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. It's ended up, and for that we call on Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, thanks for taking the time to visit with us today.
Oh, yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. You take a look at today's marketplace, and you got kind of a wild ride here today. You saw a lot of spread action across the grain markets. Your front months of the grains, corn and beans, significantly higher than the back months. It's kind of a disappointing day here in the deferred months. In your December 23, it's the first day in 21 attempts that we actually didn't settle on a positive note. So December 23 down 3/4 of a cent. We ended the streak here on day 22. It looks like. We've got the corn market opened higher this morning, sold off immediately, led by the wheat market. We went down 20 to 30 cents at one time in the Chicago wheat. Had a lot of negative forces at play. We went up, bounced up against some of this resistance, especially in your December corn, sold off significantly. Looked like we were going to have a negative day here, but man, all of a sudden, some weather models came out. Some more buying came into the marketplace, and we've made a pretty good move back up here, closing towards the highs of the day. So, we're looking at the May contract that's closing the 8.15 area, so significantly above the $8. It looked at one time like it didn't really like staying above the $8, but we ended up having to move back up. So it's the bean market in the front months 30 cents higher in the May contract. Go out to the new crop soybeans and end up still being up 6 to 7 cents there at the close. So had a good day in the grain market.
All right. So, looking at the short term today, I mean, what was it? I mean, we talked about weather models. Is it still that panic button? I mean, we talked about it before with the folks here on the show. And is the market hitting the panic button just a little early, especially for when you think about the Midwest here?
Dustin, you got to kind of take a step back in this type of marketplace. I was looking at this marketplace throughout the day, and it kind of took me by shock, took me by surprise a little bit. And you have to step back and take a 10,000-foot view of this marketplace, or you're going to make yourself sick. If you're worried about a 10-cent move right now in the grain market that's trading above $8, you're gonna have a hard time. And that's a perfect reason why we're encouraging our customers to be very active using some of these option strategies, so you can give yourself some comfort. Because I don't know that the weather model really changed today, but the fact that there was still not any moisture across some of that western plains, that's confirmed that we're still in that area of problems. You're talking about a potential flooding situation in Iowa through this weekend. So there's some weather problems that are just, it's not going to make it simple for us to get a corn in. That we're in a position where we cannot afford to have these markets have fear of not getting planted. So yeah, there is some panic. Everybody's fingers on the panic button. I personally, around here, I drove across the southern part of Wisconsin, and I saw a lot of activity going on. There's putting some anhydrous on yesterday. There's some tillage work going on, but nobody's putting corn in a 40-degree temperature soil. But I think, you got to take a step back and look at this and take that finger off that panic button right now.
Well, it's even when we saw markets in what we would call a quote unquote normal time, where it wasn't as much volatility, movement up and down wasn't always that overly concerning. And, you knew what went up was going to go down and vice versa. So, like you said, with $8 corn, a 10-cent move isn't that terribly, going to ruin your day, because you're still looking at some pretty good profit margins. But now let's move over to the livestock side of things. How did the cattle and the hogs react today?
Well, we saw an intriguing trade in the last couple of days with the hog market. We'll start with them. I mean, you had all of the proteins come down significantly coming into the month of April. Even when the market quote wasn't right, the market still did things that we were, shaking our head. So we had a large recovery in the hog market. Yesterday was a huge day up, almost $4 on the close, and now the June contract settled back off at $2.50. So I think that you've got to look at this hog market and this protein market. Some of this yesterday could have been off of the avian flu, the bird flu, and then looking at what we see as a supplementary product coming into this hog market. But I do think that you're looking at the cash trade in the May contract along with the June contract, trying to settle up with where the cash hogs are and try to get a little bit more of a balance there. I think as we see the cutouts come up, we should see that market continue to rally. But right now you're seeing the volatility come into the hog market as well. Cattle, same type of story. The one thing that you can draw your attention to, as opposed to trying to have an economic lesson here, is the fact that we have put in a 2-month high in this June contract. So we settled the day at 138.62 in the fat cattle, which is it's not the highest close we've seen, but we went higher today than we've been a couple of months. So some great moves there. You got to pay attention to what this retail prices are doing. We talk all day long about packer margins, but the fact is, if our high quality product is going to continue to get hurt by what the inflation situation is doing and disposable income amongst our customers, we could still have a problem in these front months here. But we'll see a cattle on feed here at the end of the week, and maybe that'll give us a little bit more direction. I thought it was positive to see the feeder cattle stay strong throughout the day as the corn market rallied. Hopefully we can get some inflation play into the feeder cattle as opposed to just looking at the what the crush margins are looking at there to the cattle feed margins there.
Well, a lot of great insight again, as always. And Jacob, if we want to have producers out there talking to you guys, maybe pulling their finger off the panic button and saving themselves a few ulcers in this marketplace, how do they get in touch with the folks at agmarket.net?
Agmarket.net is where you need to go. It's in the name, right? So you can just go there. What we're encouraging guys to do is just take a look at our 30-day free trial. You'll get some information there. You can get logged on to our website, get our information from the website, also get it emailed to you. Then that way we can set up some type of conversation there where we can let you know what we have, what we're thinking, and some ways that you can have yourself protected going through this volatile time.
All right. Well, Jacob, we thank you for the insight as always, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right, Dustin, take care. Have a good one.
That again was Jacob Burks with agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at those closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. At the close, July corn was up 10 1/4 at 8.10 even. December new crop up 1 1/2 at 7.48 1/2. July beans up 25 1/4 at 17.17 even. November new crop up 9 cents at 15.29 1/2. Soy meal for July was up $6.70 at 466.30. Soy oil up 55 cents at 78.75. July Chicago wheat down 11 1/2 at 10.97 1/2. Minneapolis wheat unchanged at 11.72 1/4. Kansas wheat down 6 3/4 at 11.69 1/2. Oats for July down 16 1/2 at 7.20 1/2. On the livestock side, June live cattle up $2.05 at 138.62. May feeders up $1.70 at 162.47. June lean hogs down $2.57 at 118.75. Pork cutouts down $2.60 at 124.60. Class 3 milk up a penny at 24.27. And that's been a check of your ag market recap here on AM/PM. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, we're going to hear from the folks at USDA and some senior White House officials about some new projects that the USDA is starting with rural America. But we're also going to have you pump the brakes a little bit here in Iowa. We'll talk about that coming up right after this. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, today, Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack and Ambassador Susan Rice were in Mississippi to announce a new initiative from the Biden administration that will be headed up by the USDA to connect rural communities and the USDA especially when it comes to dollars that are often left on the table when it comes to upgrading services for rural citizens. We heard from senior White House official Stephanie Feldman about the background of the program from the White House perspective.
On the campaign trail, President Biden spent a lot of time in rural America talking about how the federal government needs to create economic opportunity for rural Americans in rural America. There were two parts to this agenda. First, providing the resources that rural America needed, and second, making sure that rural communities can actually access those resources. President American Rescue Plan provides billions of dollars to rural workers and small businesses and local governments to rebuild from the pandemic. And the president's bipartisan infrastructure law is a once-in-a-generation investment in everything from affordable high-speed internet to clean drinking water to better roads and bridges for rural communities across the country. These historic investments, coupled with annual appropriations, accomplish the first part of this agenda, providing the resources that rural America needs.
Feldman says that it's been too difficult for too long for rural communities to get the resources available to them. And as we said, dollars have often been left on the table. She talks about how this program will make the assistance available in each target state.
Even before the passage of the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law, it was too hard to navigate federal programs serving rural communities. Programs serving rural communities are scattered across the federal departments and agencies. And many rural communities do not have the funds to hire a full-time grant writer or another staffer to dig through federal grant solicitations and figure out how to access resources. President Biden is announcing the launch of the Rural Partners Program, a fulfillment of the promise he made on the campaign trail to create a whole-of-government strike force that will work with rural communities to create economic opportunity in rural America. The program aims to transform the way the federal government works with rural communities in three key ways. First, putting partners on the ground. Federal staff will wake up every day with the mandate of working with the community, not just local elected officials, but economic development officials, educational institutions, major employers, and community foundations to figure out what the community needs and what federal resources can help meet those needs. Second, by establishing a direct line of communication in DC. 13 key federal agencies are dedicating a DC-based point person or team to serve as a front door for the Rural Partners Network staff and communities as they navigate the resources available across the federal government. And third, the Rural Partners Network staff will be tasked with feeding key information back to the federal agencies and policymakers so agencies can take this information and drive policy changes that address the unique challenges faced by rural communities. I like to think of it as federal policymakers being able to tap into the wisdom of rural communities to make a government that works better for not just the rural communities with the Rural Partners Network staff, but rural communities across the country.
Justin Maxson of USDA Rural Development fills out how the program works from USDA side.
We need to make sure that rural communities, especially those that have been overlooked, can access the resources that make sense for them based on their priorities. And that's what the network is all about. In a new whole of government effort that's led by USDA to transform the way federal agencies are partners in rural communities to create economic opportunity. So the network, it will be implemented in two ways: a place-based approach and at the federal level. First, through a team of federal staff who will be placed in selected communities. These staff will be about mapping out federal resources and connecting the dots to other partners in the region. That's state partners, other federal partners, and philanthropic partners who can help fill the gaps in the resources that the federal government can also provide. This on-the-ground staff will help communities navigate attempting to find the right federal programs based on their interests and their needs. They'll help support strong and competitive applications, and they'll help build the capacity of the local partners in their community economic development. Each state will get approximately 3 to 5 staff, and those staff will work hand in hand with a set of selected communities in each of the targeted states. Secondly, there's a set of federal agencies that will be supporting a broader strategy aimed at making it easier for all rural communities to access a broader range of federal programs and tools and staff. So these are staff who will be in the headquarters and have a mission aimed at supporting their agencies in rural communities. Each agency will have a lead who will work together as part of a broader coordinating table across departments. That staff, whose job will be to support the place-based staff, engage in broader communications in support of all rural communities. They'll coordinate rural strategy within their departments and aim at smarter collaboration across departments around rural development concerns. In addition, that staff will be part of this network aimed to bring lessons learned from communities to the federal policy conversation, and will be creating a set of tools and resources to support communities in identifying the right federal programs and submitting successful applications, such as a one-stop shop website.
Now, that definitely sounds like a good idea for Iowa rural communities that are needing help to get their services upgraded for their citizens. But before you get too excited about what Iowa can do with that money, pump your brakes a little bit. We're not even on the list for this year or even in the foreseeable future. In fact, Puerto Rico is on the list to get rural community assistance before we are. Why? Well, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow to Ag Matters PM to find out the reasoning behind that. Now, let's take a look at your ag weather outlook. I know that yesterday I said that the weather seems to be going back and forth, sunny, rainy, and it looks like it's going to continue for the next couple of days. We're seeing rain today in Des Moines and around most of the state, and we should be seeing some sunshine tomorrow, but hold your horses, rain's coming right back again. Let's take a look at what the National Weather Service has for us for the next 24 hours. Of course, as you can see, we had rain showers across most of the state today. Highs were ranging anywhere from the low 50s to the mid 60s. Now tonight, that rain shower activity is supposed to taper off, and we should see skies begin to clear, and we'll see lows in the low 30s all the way to the low 40s. Now tomorrow, we'll see sunny skies throughout much of the state, but watch out, those clouds will start to roll back in once again towards the evening, and we could be setting up for some overnight rain showers. Highs tomorrow from the mid to upper 60s to the low 70s. Now taking a look at the affiliate weather map for tomorrow, you can see Cherokee will be sunny and 67. Shenandoah will see mostly sunny skies, but then the clouds will start to roll in the afternoon with a chance of showers and a high of 72. Des Moines looks to be mostly sunny and 70. Albia also looking to be mostly sunny throughout the day, but those rain showers will start to creep in and a high of 70. Waterloo looking at sunny skies and 66, and Clinton looking to be sunny and 69. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliates. That's been a check of your ag weather recap. When we come back after this quick break, we hear from the folks at USDA about a new partnership with rural communities. This is Ag Matters PM.
As we approach planting season, make sure you stay safe and share the road with your local farmers. Slow-moving tractors with large planters occupy a lot of space on the road, so stay patient and follow at a distance of around 50 feet. You should never, ever try to pass them at a bridge, intersection, hill, or curve. It's far better than putting yourself or someone else at risk. So please, stay safe and remember to tip your hat to your local farmer this planting season. This message was brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Each month I sit down with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig to go more in depth on the topics that are making headlines for agriculture in Iowa. And of course, spring planting is one of those topics that is really getting everybody interested. Of course, we're days away from getting that done, and there are things that Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig is excited about as we get ready to go into the planting season. And so we sit down and ask him what's in store for 2022. We're here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Time to sit down this month with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. Secretary, thanks for taking the time to visit with us.
Hey, great to be back.
Obviously, we're here mid-April. It won't be long before those planters are starting to turn. I know it's a little cold today, and we got a little rain. Little being the key word there, rain, at least here in the central part of the state. What are things looking like as we're getting close to that spring plant?
Well, right. We're looking at the clock now or the calendar now and saying, gosh, we're ready to go. And soil temps are slowly coming up and those daytime temperatures are coming up. I would still say that the top of mind or the top line headline for weather is still the dry conditions. And we'd still have drought conditions on the map in the state of Iowa and abnormally dry places. Maybe 2/3 of the state is abnormally dry or in a drought category. And so that will continue to be a challenge for folks. We are seeing some rain, but we're also kind of getting exactly what we're supposed to get. So we're not exactly making up ground in terms of precipitation deficits. But there's a major difference this year over last year, and that's that we do have moisture in the soil profile. So at least we're starting with some fuel in the fuel tank versus where we were last year when it was dry to start with and stayed dry. So certainly that's what folks are looking at, but I know it's going to be a fast start here, and hopefully in the next few days we're really going to see some planters start rolling.
And of course, when we think about spring field work, we also start thinking about like when the plants are coming out and getting them protected. EPA kind of changed the rules again with some of those pesticides and herbicides that we use. Can you give us an update of what farmers need to know here in 2022?
Well, this is a concern of mine. We know that we've got a major supply chain disruption anyway, and then to add on top of that, challenges maybe taking tools out of the toolbox of the American farmer. And we know that in the last couple of years, with all the disruption, that resiliency, our ability to continue to produce even in challenging times, has been a hallmark of U.S. agriculture and of Iowa agriculture. But that's only possible when we empower our farmers and ag businesses to do their job. I am very concerned about this attack on the tools that we need from a crop protection standpoint. EPA does have a job to do, and I understand that. They've got to stay in compliance with laws, but I'm concerned about how they're interpreting some of these provisions, especially related to Endangered Species Act. Now, again, they've got a job to do, but we need their regulatory process to be predictable and science-based. But we need tools to do what the American farmer does best. And especially in a time where we're seeing a disruption to the global supply of grain, in particular with Russia and the Ukraine and the tragedy that's happening in Ukraine and the long lasting impact that that'll have on food prices and availability of food and grain. So we're entering into a time where we need more tools, more options. And we need to empower farmers to be able to meet the demands of consumers here and around the world. It's concerning when we think of courts and regulatory structures that get in the way of that.
All right. So as we're getting close to wrapping up to here, Secretary, of course, got to ask, we've talked about weather. We've talked about getting ready for that spring plant. How are things looking up near the Naig homestead?
Well, we're anxious to go, just like everyone, and watching that soil moisture and soil temps is what we're looking at right now. But I'm excited to get out every year. This is it's a great time of year, right? We do have challenges, and the prices that farmers are paying for inputs and the supply chain disruptions that we're seeing. But you know what? This is a great time of year to be optimistic. That crop's never had more yield right before it's planted, right? You're more yield potential. So that's always an optimistic, kind of an exciting time of year. And I know that folks are anxious to get out. I would just say, hey, work safe to all of you who are farmers and all of you who work around farmers. Please keep them in mind as we get through the spring here.
And actually, something you just said reminded me. I had another question I was going to ask you. You mentioned obviously Russia and the Ukraine and a lot of inputs, especially fertilizer and things that come through there. I mean, Iowa's always been good at, interacting with customers in other countries around the globe to, promote what they do and doing business for farmers, both getting what we need and exporting what we have. What's the story here from that aspect and what Iowa's looking at? Obviously the fertilizer disruption can be a big problem going forward.
Well, it can be. Look, we are being reminded yet again that this is a global business. This is agriculture, food and agriculture, supply chains reach globally. And that's okay in the sense that we export a lot, right? We need to be connected globally, but we are also reliant and connected to other markets and also from an input standpoint. So look, first of all, what's happening in the Ukraine is a human tragedy, and it needs to stop. And I think we need to continue to put pressure on Russia to stop this and get to a peace agreement that can restore order to the Ukraine. But it is very concerning about what kind of crop year will they have. What has the damage already been to their infrastructure, and how long will it take to repair and rebuild that? So that, unfortunately, that issue alone, Russia and the Ukraine, from a fertilizer standpoint, from a grain complex standpoint, that is impacting and will continue to impact. And so that's something that we need the United States to be very, very focused on, because it is impacting us today.
And of course, Governor Reynolds did offer help and assistance to send what we can to them. But on an agriculture, on a food front like that, to help the civilians over there, are there things on that agricultural side that we can be doing to help those citizens?
Well, and that's a good point. Yes, absolutely. That when it comes, what's happening because of the shortage now that comes out of the region because of the lack of grain production, and maybe that is something that now lasts for years to come. That can actually result in not just increased price of food globally, but also create actual shortages in places. And so I think as the countries around the world are going to need to be mindful of that, and from a humanitarian standpoint, be stepping in. But of course, we've got a lot of ties to the region. They're the breadbasket of Eastern Europe, just like we're the breadbasket of the United States. And so there's a lot of connections with farmers and businesses and universities. And so there will be, I hope, opportunities to help support them rebuilding their agriculture into the future.
All right, Secretary. Well, we thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us. A lot of great information for us to work with here. We look forward to hearing about a successful spring plant, and you be safe out there as well when you finally start getting that dirt turned.
Thank you. I hope that we've made a lot of progress in when we reconvene next month.
Sounds good. That's Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. And that's it for today's episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and also find our video content and past episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. You can also sign up for our twice daily podcast coming to you from Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IRN studios in Des Moines, and for Riley Smith, I'm Dustin Huffman. We thank you for joining us. This has been Ag Matters PM.